sekejap kemudian. Saya harap semuanya insya-Allah dipermudahkan urusan. Okey, semoga kita apa kata orang tidak terkesan dengan banjir ini. Ada orang mesej, Dr. Yati Rafida mesej ke ni? Dr. Yati, Dr. Yati. Oh, okey, bukan. Oh, recording started. Okay, so so this week, I think last week we look at social media. Have you got a chance to look at the apa orang panggil tu, the clip? Ada recording ni kan last week?
Ada.
I think some of you masa saya tengah buat recording tu ada ramai juga yang masuk lah 40-50 orang. So I mean basically we look at the internet and we look at sort of the history of internet and so on. This week we're going to look into movies. Okay, it is one of, I think, one of, I think, still very, very important and significant platform or type of mass communication. Only that it has changes a lot. But whatever it is, I think we, although with all this, apa orang panggil tu, COVID-19, a lot of cinema closed down and things like that. But I think things have picked up lately. People starting to go to cinema. Even, I mungkin nak pergi tengok Spider-Man yang baru ni. Apa nama dia? Spider-Man apa ya? No Way Home ya?
Yes, betul.
Yeah, dah tengok. Adik yang dah tengok ke?
Ada.
Betul ke best gila?
Jangan spoiler.
Jangan spoiler.
Awal tu buat
Yang the things that I know that all the 3 Spider-Mans are there. Is it true?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's quite interesting. I still find the Tobey Maguire is the best Spider-Man lah, but whatever it is, like young people of course, real one they call it. But anyway, the thing is, so the reason I'm talking about it because my family, my wife said that, do you want to watch Spider-Man? Because I think kids can get into cinema. So I said, why not? Okay, this Friday we're gonna go and watch. And you know what? This week, coincidentally, I'm gonna teach about movies. And it's really interesting that we're still going to movies, but we're going to movies to watch a particular kind of movies or cinema. But I think in the apa orang panggil tu, in the Telegram apa orang panggil tu group kan, I ada letak one statement from one of these very famous director, which I don't know, because some of you knows about it or don't know about it, Martin Scorsese. He's very famous. I mean, you may not get a chance to watch his movies. His movies is kalau pernah tengok The Wolf of Wall Street, pernah tengok tak? Saya pernah tengok Leonardo DiCaprio, The Wolf of Wall Street, apa lagi? Yes, best tak cerita tu?
Best.
Okay. And then dia buat saya tak ingat ada banyak filem yang memang best lah. And his film is definitely not like a Spider-Man or Marvel movies. So he kind of like give a statement saying that cinema is not Marvel movies that you're watching. Marvel movies is a fun, feel-good movies, but it is not a cinema. So he made quite a controversial statement. But part of it is maybe true, maybe true. Whatever it is, we're gonna look at the saya mute pula. Kepada yang dah go through, couldn't share sound. Oh my god. Okay, I cannot share sound because I'm using this headset. Let me off my headset. Oh no, not this. Let me switch off. Oh, what's this? I will switch off my headset. Sekejap Saya nak switch off ni. Aku tak tahu. Zoom. Bagi saya 2 minit sekejap dengan anak saya. Macam mana nak off ni komputer dia?
Okay, Doktor.
Dengar tak saya? Dengar tak? Okay ya?
Dengar.
Tak boleh share. Apa benda dia buat komputer ni sekejap ya. So I'm gonna share. Okay, now I can share computer and I can share the slides. Okay, we look at the slides. Okay, kita tengok sekarang ni what is cinema. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit about the history of the cinema, but I think the subject, although all of you are first year student, kan? All of you are first year student, and then but I think like most of it you can got it from the internet lah, or the history of cinema, blah blah blah. But whatever it is, I help you to share all the apa orang panggil tu resources that you can find. Where is my slide? Okay, where you can here. Yeah, you can find. Okay, I gave you the link to all my notes. Okay, so that you can have a look at it and you can actually read it. For example, if you look at my slides, I based it on the brief history of films, and then I also have notes about perfilman in Malaysia. And this is all bukan blogs lah. I mean, it's really a credible website that you can refer to. Okay, and then these two are the clips. Until later, gonna have a look at it. Gonna be quite interesting. So, if you probably have known about this, if you have gone through these notes that I gave you, you boleh baca, but here is just to refresh, okay, the history of cinema. And when I look at this, of course I took this subject and I've taught this subject, I think about 5 to 10 years ago. And bila I baca balik, okay, so this is the history of the cinema. I kind of forget about it, okay. So the first of how the cinema started, there is no like the time or the date where cinema started, okay. But a lot of the people believe that it started in 1891 or 1900 with this apa orang panggil tu device called kinetoscope. Okay. This device is actually, it still exists here. I mean even nowadays. If you can see dekat toy shop, kadang-kadang you bagi adik you kecil beli, kadang dia klik keluar gambar, kan? Ada tak yang macam tu? Dia keluar gambar. Okay, and that is like the earliest form of cinema. They call it kinetoscope. Okay, where the photo is moving. Okay, the photo is moving, and then if it's moving fast enough, macam kita buat animation lah, macam saya buat animation, if it's moving fast enough, dia akan jadi moving punya objek. Okay, cuma saya nak tanya kat you, kalau you susun gambar saya tengah buat macam ni lah, gambar macam ni ke, gambar saya tengah makan ke, how many frame atau gambar yang you kena ada dalam 1 second untuk bergerak? Guess.
8.
Now.
3.
24.
10.
You kena ada 24 frame per second. 24 gambar. So you kena lukis 24 kali. Contohnya saya tengah buat macam ni lah contohnya. So dia kena ada 24 kali gambar tu 1 second untuk nampak saya bergerak macam tu. Okay, so and some of the kinetoscope boleh benda tu lah, bila dia bergerak, bila you klik nanti dia keluar 24 kali, you tak sedar sebenarnya it's 24 frame per second, but it is 24 frame per second. Okay, so the first that's why kalau you nampak kadang-kadang dekat nota or anywhere lah dia kata 24 FP, maksudnya frame per second lah, 24 frame per second. And kalau you watch cinema, it is 24 frame per second. And it is 24 frame per second. Kalau it is more than that, macam 24, 30 frame per second, 30 gambar dalam satu saat tu, dia memang cantik, macam 4D ni sekarang, but dia macam robot sikit. Dia jadi macam terlalu robotik. So 24 frames per second seems to be like the best form of cinema. Let us have a look. 24 frame per second. Yes. This is the standard. Boleh nampak tak saya search ni? Nampak ya semua?
Nampak tak?
Nampak, Ustaz.
Yes.
Nampak.
Okay.
Nampak.
I rasa sekarang ni kan, you know what? Like you can know everything. That's why kalau anak I tanya I soalan, I kata macam, can you go and Google? Walaupun saya tahu jawapan dia, saja je. 24 frames per second, this is the standard for movies and TV shows. And it was determined to be the minimum speed needed to capture video while still maintaining a realistic motion. Even if a film shot at higher frame, it's often produced and displayed at 24 frames per second. So most feature film ensure a shot are viewed at 24 frames per second. So kalau you tengok TV tu sebenarnya, and when you look at television, of course you don't realize it, that it's moving. But actually, every second when it's moved, it got 24 picture. Okay, you've got 24 picture. Okay, dia kata macam ni. Is 24 frame per second or 30 frame per second better? Maksudnya, we must have an idea. If we have more frame per second, means that the picture would be sharper, we thought lah. Kita kata, the general consensus is that 24 frame per second is more cinematic, film-like. While 30 frame per second remind people of video or broadcast television. If you are trying to tell a cinematic story, okay, dalam cinema, 24 per second is your best. For content set, like vlogs, 30 frame per second is better. Okay, so means that kalau you guna video macam phone sekarang ni, I think TikTok, I don't know, you got to check, I don't know. This is because I heard about more frame per second, which thought to be better, kata macam, but when I remember that 24 per second is the best form kalau you tengok visuals. Kalau 30 frame per second tu memang cantik, but dia akan jadi very sharp and you look like a robot. Robotic sedikit. Macam tu sebab tu kalau kita tengok video 4G, 4D, apa benda lah, 4D, 4D ya? 3G apa dah? Video 4 apa? 4K. 4K, yes. Kalau you shot dalam video 4K, I tak tahu berapa frame per second 4K, then the visuals gonna be sedikit kaku sedikit. Dia macam robot sikit lah. Dia macam sharp sangat. So kadang-kadang in cinematic that's not nice because cinematic have its own like sort of aesthetic lah cinema. Okay. Okay, so the first, this is kinestopic, and then the moving pictures, the first are created by Lumiere brothers. I think Lumiere brothers ada film dia sendiri. In France, in Paris. You see, like, if you have not seen a film, European film, because like all of us are so bombarded with American films, like Hollywood. Like, all of you watch Spider-Man. We watch Spider-Man and blah, blah, blah. But the true cinema and the true movies are not Hollywood. It is in Europe. And if you look at the starting of moving picture, it is in France. And if you got a chance to watch a French movie, like, I would say it's of course better than Hollywood movies. But Hollywood movies are entertaining. Of course, it is fun. But it's definitely better than Hollywood lah, which I think. But of course, it's fun to watch Spider-Man and so on. So it started in France. So they use a device called cinematograph, okay, which is a camera projector that capture the moving pictures. Let us look at Lumiere brothers. I think Lumiere brother. Okay, this is already okay. So Lumiere brothers is kita tengok Wikipedia ni, you got to keep memang very helpful for you to get your first understanding of certain things. Of course, I will refer to Wikipedia. But if you want to refer something, you kena tak boleh refer Wikipedia. So Wikipedia ni, apa dia punya shortcomings of Wikipedia?
Orang boleh edit.
Yes, edit. Like of course people gonna correct it again. But people edit, you don't know. Like macam apa jadi dekat page siapa seorang politician kita?
Rina Harun.
Rina Harun, dia tulis lebih, dia edit lah pencuri tai cicak lah apalah jahat kan orang ni.
but dia correct balik lah. So you got to be careful lah dengan Wikipedia. To get a start, to understanding, okay. But later you have to go to more like credible punya website lah. And books, of course, books is the best, and journals. So Lumiere Brothers, blah blah blah, are known for the cinematograph, motion pictures. So they started with they are the one who starting the moving pictures. Kalau sebelum ni gambar saja. I rasa dia buat satu film. Tajuknya, tak ingat lah. Tak apalah, nanti kita tengoklah baca. Itu something about moon. Okay, was probably the film, the first commercial public screening. Okay, tak apa, later kita boleh tengok. Okay, so the early cinema, so at first films were very short, sometimes only a few minutes. Of course, at that time, like people used to look at pictures when the cinema is moving. Of course, it was like innovation in 1900. So the films usually shorter. Okay, so it's shown in a theater or in an open spaces and so on. And then films are accompanied by lecture, music, audience. The dialogue, usually they are silence, okay? You know, silent cinema in early 1900, Charlie Chaplin and so on. And that kind of cinema earlier, okay? Of course, it's black and white. And then by 1914, several industry was established. And the earliest industry for cinema is in Europe, in Russia and Scandinavia. So we've got a chance to watch like a French film, a British film, a film from Denmark. There's a lot of great films coming from there. Get a chance to watch that film. But of course, American are the most powerful industry when it comes to film. Okay, but films actually started, film with story started in Europe. Okay, it became dominant. And then people start to pay and see movies by early 1900. And there is also like a big studio film, Paramount you can see, in Hollywood and so on. And then in terms of technology, America is definitely faster and catching up. Okay, so then the film industry started by the early of 1900. So color in film was not used until 1932. It started with a film like Gone with the Wind. For those who like movies, of course you need to know Gone with the Wind. The Wizard of Oz, this is all obviously Hollywood films. And then there's a lot of other films, okay? I'm not sure in Malaysia, colored film starting from, I think maybe P. Ramlee. Maybe we can have a look at it. Okay, the first films that has dialogue, previously like a quiet film, but they have dialogue, is The Jazz Singer in 1927. So it started to have dialogues. It used, at first it's used like a Vitaphone system. I'm not really sure what this Vitaphone system is all about. And then soon it was replaced by optical and variable density soundtrack films. Okay, so basically it started with color started in 1932, and then sound in film started in 1927. Okay. Okay, sekejap, I stop sekejap, ada printing sekejap ya. Okay, sorry, ada yang print. Okay, so then you can see when the cinema started. It started since 1900, and obviously it started in sort of Western country lah, di Europe dan juga di Amerika. Next is the cinema golden age. Bila kita sebut cinema golden age ni, I refer to Western lah. Okay, because cinema dekat Malaysia later kita tengok when it's coming in lah. But however, when I refer to this golden age, it refers to like the Western cinema. In 1930, so almost all films have sound and colors, and this is what people call the golden age of Hollywood. Okay, this is when the cinema become the main entertainment for people. People are going out to watch cinema, because the earliest form of mass communication is kabar, newspaper, and then the radio started. It's radios later, and then it's cinema. So this is the golden age of cinema, where people go and watch cinema. It's a main form of entertainment. So in 1930, it's become like the golden age of cinema. So what does it mean by golden age of Hollywood? Kalau you pernah tengok cerita Bringing Up Baby, Gone with the Wind, Rebecca from Alfred Hitchcock, Psycho from Alfred Hitchcock, Casablanca, Some Like It Hot. This is all like classic cinema. To be specific, it's a classic Hollywood cinema. This is, if you watch it now, if you got the chance to watch this film, it is still among the best film lah. Okay, so I think I've got a chance to watch almost all of this film, and it's still like the best when you watch it. Okay, in terms of the way the film is being made, the story, the narrative, and so on. Okay, so this is what we call as the golden age of cinema. And kenapa? Why this is called the golden age of cinema in 1930? Because of this is where the film devices get better in America, particularly because America are more advanced when it comes to technology. The plot of the story is better, and the technology is better. Okay, so in Hollywood they have this golden age of cinema when things are at the peak of everything. Okay, however, I think in 1950, in 1940, I'm not sure about the date, but when is the end of golden age cinema? Let me have a look, yeah? When is the end of the golden age of cinema? When did golden age of cinema end? 1963. Very specific. Kenapa dia end? 1963. Salah satu faktor dia kenapa?
Perang Vietnam.
Sebab apa? Corona? Apa cakap tadi? Tak dengar. Kenapa dia end? You rasa?
Internet.
Internet 1980.
TV.
TV, yes. Because of television. Because people are watching like cinema is like the most important thing, and they have a lot of money in cinema, and the film become better, and you know what? And then television started, and there is a competition from the television, and the golden age of cinema. It's not like the end of cinema. The golden age of cinema means that cinema is like the most important. Okay, that's all about cinema. Okay, so any question so far? Semua faham tak?
Faham, Doktor.
Okay, yeah, clear. Okay. So how about today? Of course, today lagilah kalau dulu cinema ada competition dengan television. Today the attendance of cinema, of course, has become lesser. Okay, not only they have to fight with television, they have to fight with what? Cinema kena fight dengan apa?
Dengan Netflix.
Netflix, SVOD. Sekarang ni cinema sekarang ni dia release dekat mana? Sekarang kebanyakannya when they release dekat cinema sekejap, and then dia boleh terus masuk Netflix. So you can watch Netflix. And recent film that I watch on Netflix is Don't Look Up. Siapa tengok cerita tu? Best juga. Pasal komet yang serang dunia tu kan, yang dia meletup and whatever this. Okay, it's quite interesting. But that film, the release of the film is not on the cinema. I mean they released it on the cinema, but after that people are waiting on Netflix. So macam ada some movies that I can't wait to see like now. Like I think it's gonna release hari Jumaat ni. Ada satu film yang I nak tengok. Okay, so now because of that, you know, the cinema attendance is going down. So we don't know what is the future. What do you think about the future of cinema? Do you think cinema will sustain or not?
Maybe yes, maybe not.
Macam mana?
I think it will sustain, sir.
You think will sustain?
Yes.
Why?
Because
Why?
the experience of the big screen.
Yes, correct, indeed. Because the experience of big screen, kan? It's different from watching it at home. But what kind of cinema that you want to watch in big screen?
Action.
Action, Marvel,
Spider-Man.
3D. Yes, this is called the future of cinema. So in the past 20 years, film production has been altered by the rapid digital technology. So a lot of production, they record on digital, and then they address the editing, the special effects, and we want to watch a 3D 3D features film. Okay, but I don't think we want the 4D. Sebab 4D ni macam ada air semua kan. I mean, siapa yang nak tengok cinema ada air dan bau semua kan. But I think, I don't know, but 3D is definitely the future of the cinema. And I think cinema probably will maintain, but the worry would be like people don't come to cinema to watch like the real movies, but they probably watch like apa orang itu? Film-film yang macam Marvel or action movies and so on. Okay, because they want to have the experience of the cinema. Okay. So this is the Marvel cinematic. Obviously, sekarang ni the only thing that can survive is of course the Marvel punya franchise. Okay, and how it impacted the cinema. And maybe we can look at why Marvel is so popular. What is so different about Marvel? Of course, the special effects and so on, and the story and so on. So maybe we can think a little bit of this. Apa dia kata ni? Marvel Cinematic Universe, the impact. Okay. Marvel Cinematic Universe and its impact. Okay, let us have a look at this. What is it?
Cinema with their... What is up, everybody? My name is Andy, and I am a film geek, and I love Disney, and I am here to talk about the significance that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has had on cinema over the last few years. Now, if you don't know what the Marvel Cinematic Universe is, the MCU is a group of movies, 23 movies over the last 11 years that have made over $22 billion that are one cohesive universe. That is one story, or what we call in filmmaking, a narrative, that are all tied together into one bigger story. So you have all these little stories and they all combine into one bigger story, and it's called the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, when you look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it just looks like a bunch of big movies with big budgets that things blow up and there are people, and there is some truth to that. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has been a powerhouse in filmmaking. Of the top 20 highest grossing films of all time, Marvel and their cinematic universe has 6 of them. But why is it so significant to filmmaking? Why is the Marvel Cinematic Universe so significant to cinema with their 23 films and their $22.5 billion in 11 years and their big name actors? Why is it such a big deal?
Kind of a big deal.
Well, before we get into that, I want to get into the history of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And for those of you who know the history, this will just be a quick refresher. In 1998, what we would now call Marvel Studios released Blade, based on the comic book character, and it starred Wesley Snipes, and it had some success, even some sequels, except soon Marvel comic books as a company fell on hard times. So to get some income, they licensed some of their stories and characters out to other studios, like the X-Men to Fox and Spider-Man to Sony. From those successful films, Marvel was able to get some income, and with that money, and it actually wasn't very much in comparison to what those movies brought in, they were able to start their own films with the characters that were left in their comic book canon, such as Iron Man, Captain America.
Final warning. I could do this all day.
Arguably, Marvel had sold off the rights to their largest franchises, such as Spider-Man and X-Men, the Fantastic Four, and Deadpool. So when the Marvel Cinematic Universe was born, they took their secondary characters, the Avengers, the Iron Man, the Captain America, the Thor, and decided they were going to make a cinematic universe using those characters. Under the leadership of executive producer Kevin Feige, who now heads up Marvel Studios, the first film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe was released in 2008, and that was Iron Man, followed up by the Incredible Hulk and Captain America, the first Avenger, and Thor, and then the Avengers. Of course, Disney liked what they were seeing, and even though Marvel had a deal with Paramount Studios at the time, they went ahead and purchased Marvel Studios and began to produce a bunch of more films. It gave Marvel some license and really some creative freedom to do what they were good at, and Disney let them do it, and they just kept funding it, and the movies kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and better and better and better. Well, Disney, like I said, purchased Marvel Studios for $4 billion, and with that came even better movies, even bigger movies, bigger budgets, bigger sets, and more freedom to do what Kevin Feige wanted to do with this Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, Kevin Feige had been a part of every Marvel licensed film pretty much since Spider-Man. He knew what he was doing. He loved the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He loved Marvel Comics. He knew these characters in and out, and he was able to craft a universe together with these remaining characters like no one else in the industry could. Quick side note on the purchase of Marvel by Disney. A lot of Disney fans didn't think it was a good idea because it didn't really fit in with the ethos of Disney, but come to find out, it actually did, and has done really well as a Disney property, both in the parks and on Disney Plus and on Disney Channel and all the other ways that Disney likes to capitalize on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Well, as time has gone on, after Disney purchased Marvel Studios, the films became more and more successful. The Avengers came out, Age of Ultron came out, so many amazing films, and soon Sony, who had the rights to Spider-Man, they weren't doing so good with their Spider-Verse and Spider-Man stuff. I'm sorry, Andrew Garfield, I love you as an actor, but it wasn't great. And under the original licensing agreement that Sony had with Marvel, if they didn't make a film over a certain amount of time, those rights would go back to Marvel. Sony knew that Spider-Man was a cash cow and they didn't want to lose it because they've already made some very successful Spider-Man movies. So they went to Marvel and struck a deal with Marvel and Disney to take Spider-Man in 2015 and put him in their Marvel Cinematic Universe while allowing them to produce actual Spider-Man movies that were a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And now you have this multi-Spider-Verse thing that may or may not happen. There's a lot of talk right now. I'm not going to get into that. So that little bit of very rough background on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And
Okay. Wow, a lot of things. I sebenarnya baru tengok ni video ni, but it's so very interesting. So Spider-Man was not part of Marvel. It was part of, it was distributed by Sony only after siapa pelakon dia, bukan Tobey Maguire. After tu dia pergi ke dengan Marvel, dengan Sony, and now Sony makes a lot of money. So I would say in today's world, the world of cinema or movies revolves around Marvel cinema. And people go to cinema because they want to watch Marvels. You got Avengers, Captain America, blah, blah, blah. And now Spider-Man has joined the Marvel, and now it's become, it is, of course, Spider-Man, of course, it's part of the comics, I think. And then, of course, it's become bigger and bigger. Okay, but later we're going to look at, so the question and the discussion, and if we look at the history of cinema and the essence of cinema, later we're going to look at this one video. It's quite interesting. To what extent Marvel has changed the definition of cinema, or maybe is it really a cinema, or it is a new way of watching experience was. Okay, so we'll go back to this. Kita tengok perfilman Malaysia pula. Okay, kita asyik tengok pasal luar negara, kita tengok perfilman Malaysia. You can look at the notes that I gave you. I've got this from this website. I think the website is from Finas. And a lot of other information. Basically, that's about the same. Okay, I'm sorry, I put it in Malay, so I hope that all of you will understand. For anyone who does not understand, but I will try to explain it in Bahasa English. Okay, so in Malaysia, the first film started in 1899. Not too bad. Okay, the first sort of film shown is in 1899. It's a documentary It's a news documentary called the Diamond Anniversary Celebration of Queen Victoria. Obviously, because we are being occupied by British at that time. Okay, of course, the first film definitely is film daripada quote-unquote penjajah. Okay, so the first cinema was brought up in Singapore. Okay, in 1907. Okay, and the first film is being shown is 1953 called Laila Majnun. Okay, dan film ini diarahkan oleh B.S. Rajan, and it's based in Bombay. So we know that sebab tu agaknya film Malaysia ni suka film Bollywood, because the earliest film are being produced by a Bollywood film industry. Okay, and obviously lah, I think until today, the only sort of filmmakers or icon in Malaysian cinema, it remains P. Ramlee. Okay, I'm not sure if there's other filmmakers can go at the level of P. Ramlee, not only in terms of the film that it creates, but also the cinematic aspect of it. Okay, because P. Ramlee, it starts starting in 1948, and he has created a lot of movies. And his movies is not just movies. It's not just like a fun movies. Like fun movies macam sekarang ni kita ada cerita apa? Cerita hantu, cerita lawak, cerita mak rempit. It's not necessarily that. P. Ramlee making entertaining movies, but the movies that are cinematic, that have a message. Okay, for example, Ibu Mertuaku, Antara Dua Darjat, Semerah Padi, although film-film yang lawak, for example, Tiga Abdul, it has a message and it has the cinematic quality, okay, that makes P. Ramlee films. This is probably what we call as the golden age of Malaysian cinema, okay, where the films are the best, not only in terms of the quality, but also in terms of the story. Okay, so of course, when it comes to Malaysian film, we still cannot move on with the P. Ramlee yang buat film pada tahun 1950-an, 60-an, and then we don't move from there. So even film sekarang pun tak boleh melawan film-film sebelum ini. Okay. Okay, now I want us to look at this. Then kita fikirkan, what is cinema actually? What is cinema? Let's look at this, yeah? Okay, what is cinema?
What makes a question a good question? Well, I met this woman one time, and I said, when was the last time you touched a
It is recognized that you have a funny sense of fun.
Cinema is the most prestigious cultural activity in the modern world. It is for us what theatre was in the age of Shakespeare or painting was in the days of Leonardo da Vinci, the art form with the biggest impact, the largest budgets, and the most widespread audiences. Collectively, we recognise that film has an astonishing power to induce emotion. But it would sound weird to stop and ask what film was really for, what purpose it serves in our societies, and why we spend so much time in its presence. We don't generally think of films as serving any very strenuous or serious cause. We ask for a lot of nice but not terribly lasting things of films, to while away the hours of a long flight, to keep the family together on the sofa, to give us a bit of a thrill. This is a great loss for us and for cinema itself. We should try to pin down more accurately what films actually do for us, then make sure we're reliably making and finding our way to seeing the best, that is, the most useful kinds of films. We would ideally accept that film, like all the other art forms, best reveals its power when we conceive of it as a kind of therapy. Let's consider 5 key problems and how films can help us with them. We're understandably prone to self-pity. We get ground down and frustrated by the problems life throws at us, and we tend to react by getting ever more stern and serious. Certain films can beautifully address this natural tendency when they show us people not too different from ourselves in difficult situations, except very much unlike us. These films play our pains for laughs. They seek the absurd side of the exact things that we normally greet with excessive seriousness.
No, I'm making time.
At their best, there's nothing trivial about these comedies at all. They take on the momentous task of sweetly edging us towards being slightly nicer people to live around.
You have 3 seconds to get back to your seat.
Oh, you can't get anywhere in 3 seconds.
Well, you better try.
You're setting me up for a loss already.
Okay, thank you.
Whatever you say. Stove.
It's Steve.
Stove. What kind of name is that?
Sometimes in life, an action that seems quite small goes on to have enormous consequences. You tell a little lie, you steal a tiny bit, you're a bit dishonest with someone, you get a bit lustful and carried away just once, and then from this, a catastrophe ensues. Films can help us by speeding up time and showing us in a matter of hours the fearsome result of what we might originally have thought of as small failings. A film can push the consequences to the maximum. By witnessing horror and disaster, it can make us want to be the kind of person who is a touch more forthright, a little more honest and moral, readier to face an unpleasant moment now and thereby head off a distant disaster. We leave the cinema less inclined
Mafia, Habibi.
Assalamualaikum.
Salam.
Terputus ya?
Waalaikumsalam.
Terputus.
Ya Allah, lama ke? Dah lama dah?
Wassalam.
Minit.
2 minit Milo.
Allah, okay, sorry. Okay, so basically you can watch the videos later, but cinema supposedly are different from than the idea of cinema that we have nowadays. Cinema supposedly should reflect our life and so on, but I think in Malaysia we don't have that kind of cinema. Okay, so that's why Martin Scorsese questioned whether Marvel movies are really a cinema. Later you can discuss about it, but if you watch again the videos, okay, you may have a look and can think about yourself. Okay, what is cinema is all about. Okay, so I just want to ask, what is your most favorite film and why it is important to you? Ada siapa tak? Boleh share dengan saya. What is your most favorite film and what is important to you? It can be Marvel, it can be non-Marvel, whatever it is.
Bird Box.
Apa dia?
Bird Box.
What movie is that? Kalau Rabia tu boleh share dengan saya?
Dia pasal orang buta.
Dia macam mana Asia dia?
Bird, B-I-R-D, B-O-X.
Oh, Bird Box, Netflix. Okay, of course, understand. Okay. Yes. Sandra Bullock dalam cerita tu. Okay, others, cerita apa? Others ada cerita lain nak share? What your favorite cinema? Hazim?
Yes.
Cerita apa Hazim? Apa dia?
Despicable Me.
Despicable Me, of course. Itu yang Itu
Apa?
animated film kan tu?
Animated.
Yes, of course. It's also one of my favorite. It's a lovely film. Apa tu? Sampai last tu dia akan ada di tengah menari-nari tu kan. Sampai sekarang anak saya kan gelak lah boleh tengok yang menari tu. Okay, others. Siapa nak share?
Cars. Fast
Macam mana?
Furious.
Cerita apa?
Fast Furious.
Sorry, saya tak dengar. Lagi sekali.
Fast and Furious.
Fast and Furious.
Fast and Furious, of course. Itu antara filem-filem, of course, yang muda-muda suka filem tu. Okay, because it is apa tu? Unfortunately, saya tak pernah tengok cerita tu. Saya tak pernah tengok Fast and Furious. I don't know why. But I know it's really popular films. Okay. Lain.
Forrest Gump. Lagi
Shawshank Redemption.
Shawshank Redemption, of course. Like, this is one of the best. Forrest Gump. Tadi sebut Forrest Gump tadi ya?
Haris lagi baru.
Ada orang sebut Forrest Gump ni.
Forrest Gump, Shawshank Redemption. Lagi apa?
8 Man.
8 Miles. Okay, Eminem. Lagi? Itu cerita lah.
Willy Wonka. Willy Wonka.
Willy Wonka yang Johnny Depp tu ke? Chocolate Factory. Okay. Johnny Depp jadi Willy Wonka. Of course, yes. Lagi?
Harry Potter. Saving Private Ryan.
Tapi you kalau Transformers, Harry Potter. Some Harry Potters are better, but if you read the books, when you watch the films, susah sikit lah sebab buku dia best kan. But yeah, some of the films are really good. Lagi? Lain?
Avatar.
Avatar.
Maleficent.
Naruto.
Lord of the Ring.
Siapa?
Naruto.
Ada.
Ratatouille. Sing.
Cars.
Cerita Sing.
Cars.
One Piece.
Lord of the Ring.
Aquaman. Narnia. James Bond.
Ratatouille.
Boy.
Mission
Percy
Impossible.
Jackson.
Terminator.
Suara doktor tak dengar.
Tak dengar lah doktor.
Resident Evil. Suara doktor tak dengar.
Tak dengar suara doktor.
Doktor tak dengar.
Suara tak dengar.
Doktor tak dengar ke?
Tak dengar doktor.
Bobo Boy.
Agent Abu.
Agent Abu. Okay, dengar suara saya.
Dengar doktor.
All of you have films that you like because it reflects your life. It's not just for entertainment. If you ask about, of course, there are films that you watch for entertainment. Macam baru ni I tengok cerita yang Shang-Chi. Of course, I love it so much. It's an entertaining movie, and I would definitely love Spider-Man. I would definitely love Avengers. I suka semua tu, especially yang Avengers. Like manalah yang macam sangat best lah kan. Like tengok Allah bestnya kan. But to what extent it reflect us, our life. Kadang-kadang kita tengok film tu, they touch us deeply. So films has a very powerful like emotion. You like Despicable Me, there must be a reason why you like it. A lot of The Ring, there must be a reason you like it because it reflects our life and so on. So I think probably you can think of film as that way, and you probably would understand why Martin Scorsese, who have created such a great movies, would question Marvel movies. If the future of movies is Marvel movies, then it would question what cinema, whether we can have the real cinema that we have. Okay, they have experience. If you ask me what kind of films that I love, this is the films that I've watched. I love these films. I can think of a lot of other films, but this is the films that I've still remember that I've watched it. I've watched it a long time ago. Some of you may have not watched this film. Some of you may watch this film because I memang study cinema masa master. I ada minor dalam cinematic study, so I've watched a lot of film. This film is called A Separation. It's film from Iran, so obviously it's like Shia Muslim. It was a really great film. It's one of the best films ever created. This is a film from Hong Kong, I think China or Taiwan, sorry. The title is In the Mood for Love. This is a French film, certified copy. This is a Chinese film. This is an American film, Boyhood, and this is a Spanish film called Talk to Her. So there's more films than Hollywood films that you can watch. And if you got a chance to watch a film that is not Hollywood films, you can have different experience because it gives you something different, okay, than that about your life. It reflects your life, okay. So that's all. I remember when I watched Boyhood. If you got a chance, it's a really good film. Some of you find it maybe boring, but I loved it. Towards the end of the movies, it is so good. I feel like floating itu macam, because it is really good. Okay, sometimes films can make you feel that way. Okay, so that is probably the power of cinema, and that's maybe the reason why cinema gonna stay with us forever, and we're definitely gonna watch cinema in movies. Okay. Okay, we're already at 1 o'clock. I think all of you may want to ready for next class. Any question about cinema?
No, doctor.
Okay, no. Okay, we more or less actually have finished all our syllabus. I think next week we may be gonna have some activities. So we have about 2 to 3 weeks. I think the last week we're gonna do maybe some kind of revision. I will discuss with Dr. Nohayati Rafida how we can do it in the last week for your exam, because I think this subject got an exam. And for the next, I think 1 or 2 weeks, we're going to do some kind of activities or some topic that is maybe interesting to you, that you want to know about mass media, and probably I can share with everyone. Okay, semua, jangan lupa put the attendance. I've given you the link, isi yang dapat attendance hari ini. For those who are not able to come because you are affected by the floods, you can catch up with the class in the recording. Okay. Terima kasih semua.
Terima kasih, doktor.
Terima kasih, doktor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Terima kasih, doktor.
Oh, by the way, I nak minta maaf tadi.